Well, it's taken a little while, but we've finally won a couple of games in the league in the 9th season of the save. I think we're a Vertical Tiki Taka team now. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 90 of the Leipzig Loko with Lokomotive Leipzig here on Sean Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and coming up today we take on Stuttgart in the Bundesliga and then travel to take on Montpellier in the Europa League with our Vertical Tiki Taka, which has improved our form off the back of yesterday's episode. So if you're looking forward to that coming up, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and have been enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But in yesterday's episode, we took on Nottingham Forest in the Europa League as well as Wolfsburg in the Bundesliga. That second game, we did switch to a new tactical style. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. That result against Wolfsburg was not too bad, especially considering we were down to 10 men for most of the second half. That was our first game where we did go from a gegenpress to a vertical tiki taka, as you can see off the back of that first round of the DFB Pokal. Our form off the back of that in the Bundesliga in particular was very poor, and then we blew a late lead against Nottingham Forest, so it did feel like a good time to potentially try a change. Not too bad in that Wolfsburg game. We're actually playing quite well up until that red card, and arguably, I'm recording this in advance, so not too sure what you guys thought yet about that late offside decision that did go against us, but we could have actually picked up a win from that game. Off the back of that, we did have a couple of very, very easy games compared to what we have had so far this season, and going into those games, I did decide to just make one change to that vertical tiki-taka style that we did use in that Wolfsburg game from yesterday's episode, with the club vision on the board expecting us to play some high tempo pressing football. Instead of being on a low tempo, I changed it to being slightly higher going into that game, just in case the results did not come. I thought we'd better at least go high tempo, and that should make sure that if we do lose games, at least we're trying to play with a high tempo. But thankfully, the results did come. First up, we picked up a 2-1 win away at Cologne. We got off to a good start here, a goal to Mikel Mastis. Off the back of that, though, frustratingly, Cologne did equalise, but thankfully, in the second half, one player who's playing very well, since we have switched to that vertical tiki-taka, is Zoran Spasajevic. He grabbed a goal to make sure that we did pick up all 3 points. Thankfully, off the back of that, we played in the Europa League, put out a full rotation for this game, which was a little bit of a gamble, but thankfully, yet again, we pick up a win. This one, a lot more comfortable. First half goals to Xerxes and Hermel, and he grabbed a double in the second half, and off the back of that, we took on Hamburg, those guys at that stage just below us on the Bundesliga table, down just outside of the relegation zone, and this was a good performance yet again off the back of an early opener to Leroy Sané. We did concede, but thankfully just before half-time, Matthias Tell got his first competitive goal for the club, and then some good work off the bench from Jan Horvath, and he squared a ball and actually ended up being an own goal from Janat Zik. So we did pick up in the end a pretty comfortable 3-1 win, so it does mean off the back of yesterday's episode, 6 points in the Bundesliga and 3 in the Europa League, going to this first game of today's episode in a much better position than we were come the end of yesterday, all the way up to 10th on the table, which is good because we did tell the board that we would finish mid-table in this season, so at least we're already there after 7 games played off the back of a rough start, and hopefully we can continue to make our way up the table in these next couple of games, albeit this next one is going to be tough as we do take on a Stuttgart team who earlier this season actually were right up near the top of the Bundesliga table. The last couple of games, they have been mixing their form a little bit more, with losses to Wolfsburg, Hamburg, and Fortuna Düsseldorf. Surprising to see that they did get thumped there by Hamburg, so maybe this is a game we can get something out of, albeit from memory. This is a team that we can struggle against. There you can see the last couple of innings between these two teams. We'll actually go over to the data hub and have a look at this, but they are a team who can be a bit tricky for us from memory, and there is the proof. We did actually do a pretty decent job against these guys last season, a win at home and a draw away, but before then, our form against them not too good, including a 6-1 defeat in the second round of the DFB Pokal, albeit that was all the way back in 2024, but this team has in the past been a slight bogey team for us. Hopefully we can pick up a decent result, even though this one is away from home. Going into this game, we've got a couple of players who are on a heavy workload, which is a bit surprising, albeit we are just coming back off the back of an international break. That might have something to do with it. Some players who got quite a bit of game time for their national teams. So we have made changes in the deep lying playmaker role. Baker comes in for Escobar because he is on a heavy workload and very tired and injury prone when that is the case. Also, the player who's in probably the best form, as I said, since we have switched to that vertical tiki taka in Zoran, also on a heavy workload. We'll try and keep him fresh, and instead Jordan Xerxes can play this game, but that's the only two changes that we are going to make. Apart from that, we are at full strength and hopefully can continue the slight resurgence that we have had off the back of going to that slightly higher tempo vertical tiki taka. Hopefully we can show you guys how we have been scoring goals in these last couple of games and picking up wins as well. To be fair, we have been playing though some pretty weak teams. Today's episode will be a good litmus test for this tactic and a good indication to see if it will work against some of the better teams in the division. There was Stuttgart. There's our team as we ran through before. We'll get the action underway. They are in the white. We are in our traditional yellow and blue, and we do have an early free kick here in our favour. And already you can see some quite good short passing, albeit Baker there a little bit sloppy on the ball, and Stuttgart might get an early chance. Thomas, as well as the other striker, they are two who have given us big headaches in the past. Thankfully, that time they don't get on the front foot too much, and we try and do something down our left-hand side. Baker finds Matthias Tell improving steadily as he gets more used to life here at Lokomotive Leipzig. We eventually find Sane down that right-hand side, plays that one back to Blomene Amadori inside the box. We'll get a shot off. It does pop off to Matthias Tell at the far post, who heads that one home. Amadori, he is a player at the moment who is probably the most out of form. Our strikers are struggling to score goals. Of course, these days they are playing as deep-lying forwards on that vertical tiki taka, but unfortunately, Matthias Tell was offside and the goal does get ruled out, and actually is a correct decision. He did make his way back onside, but too little too late. That one is a clear decision, and it is unfortunately still 0-0, but an encouraging start, even if it did come through a big deflection. But hopefully we can get back down the end and open the scoring soon here away from home. But this highlight, Merlin has the ball for Stuttgart. Good block there. I believe that would have been from Sicker, and now Becker is on the ball here for the opposition. Fagioli starts to cut inside towards the edge of the box. Now Hansen Allen plays that one back to Fagioli. Becker, just a loop ball over the top there for Fagier. That's the other striker alongside Thomas, who does tend to score against us, but thankfully that header just goes over the bar, and we are still locked up at 0-0 coming up to the 15-minute mark so far. This has been a pretty even game, but just off the back of that, there is a highlight here and potentially in favour of Stuttgart, albeit that's a really poor pass that time from Thomas, and hopefully we can make the most of some space here in the midfield and get on the attack. Nice ball out there to Sicker, plays that one back to Blomene, looks to go far post here for Nicolo Amadori, but unfortunately his header, that one goes over the bar, much like that chance to Fagier down the other end. It's good to see that Amadori is getting a bit more involved in this game. Off the back of that, we'll just make sure here that Matthias Tell is going to ease off tackles. We won't do the opposition instructions quite yet, but there you can see what we are doing for the Stuttgart team in this game. We'll just make sure that Tell will ease off tackles. It might mean that Tunde Musa does get some game time in the second half. The last couple of games, Tell actually been doing a pretty good job. Unfortunately today, now that we're doing some games that I'm going to be showing you guys, looks like his form has gone out the window yet again. Now Baker, nice ball over the top there for Nicolo Amadori, takes on the shot himself, and Plowman makes a save with his feet. I don't think I've seen that yet on this year's game. Usually the goalkeepers struggle to make saves with their hands, let alone their feet, so that is surprising. Then Osvaldo with a header. Someone there nearly gets a touch on that for us, but unfortunately that one also finds Plowman, so a couple of good chances for us there, about 15 minutes shy of half-time, but still locked up at 0-0. But as you can see, stats-wise, we are certainly starting to get on the front foot in this game, and now throwing down that far side inside the last 5 minutes of this half, albeit good work there from Stuttgart to win that ball back. Now Merlin just makes his way towards this near side, plays that one back to Becker. Now Fagioli, poor pass though, Baker gets it. Now Amadori, nice ball there for Matthias Tully, takes on the shot, but unfortunately that one does get blocked, albeit might still be on the attack here. A bit of aerial ping pong, but unfortunately it eventually finds its way out to Mecha down that far side for Stuttgart. We'll see if that was the highlight. Decent chance potentially there for Matthias Tell, but unfortunately it got blocked. And now down the other end, somehow massive overlap here for Stuttgart. Thiago Thomas, massive chance, but big save there from Ricardo San Jose so far. He's probably been the best of our signings from this past transfer window. Decent chance there near post, but thankfully that header does go over the bar, so a big late chance there for Stuttgart. But before then, did feel like we were getting on the front foot, but we go into the sheds locked up at 0-0, but this does feel like a game where there is going to be a goal in the second half. We'll take off Matthias Tell on that yellow card and also on a 6.1 for Tunde Musa. Hopefully today he does not get sent off like he did against Wolfsburg in yesterday's episode, but apart from that, we'll just make sure that he will ease off tackles. I think that's all we need to do, give the guys a bit of encouragement, and hopefully we can kick on and pick up a goal in the second half and grab something from this game. It feels like at the moment we are the team looking a bit more threatening, but of course Stuttgart did have that big chance late in that half. Thankfully San Jose came up with a big save, but we'll see how things go here in the second half. Leroy Sané on a 6.5 might be the next one who does get taken off. Now he's down to a 6.4, but we'll make our way up to the hour mark. Still on the front foot, it feels like, but the stats are pretty similar, and Sané on that 6.5 might be time to take him off. Also, Pittman's on a 6.5, so I suppose in fairness, we'll bring Ryan on for him and Mastis for Sané, so we'll see how those two get on in this last half hour. Nothing happening so far in the second half, albeit, as I say that, there is a throw right off the back of those substitutions, and we do have the ball here trying to make our way into the opposition half these days as well with the vertical Tiki Taka. We are playing with a higher defensive line instead of our usual standard one. We'll see how that goes so far. It's been working well. Yet again, Amadori gets his head on the end of that one, but unfortunately it again goes over the bar. Still locked up at 0-0, and now it's the Stuttgart goalkeeper there. It's actually Plogman, not Plowman, but he pumps that one deep, but we win it back. Now Blomier starts to make his way into the opposition half. Some good passing, albeit, but fortunate we get that one back from the clearance. Now Tunde Musa, can he square this for someone? He can't. Actually loses down on possession, then gets it gifted back to him. It absolutely wrong foots the goalkeeper with that shot, but unfortunately comes off the base of the post, and somehow this game is still 0-0, but it feels like there should be a goal in this game. There's been lots of chances now for both teams, albeit it does feel like we're creating slightly more, and with about 20 minutes left, another highlight hero thrown down this near side. Baker on the ball again though, bit of a loose touch. That's something that's happened a bit this season with both him and Escobar. We do play a ball over the top there after getting possession back, but unfortunately miss out. Now they pump this one deep for Gear, wins that in the air. Now Thiago Thomas with a big chance, but thankfully puts that one wide. They are looking a little bit threatening at times on the counter-attack, but thankfully so far it hasn't cost us too much. Now with our last couple of subs here, we'll bring on Zordan for Xerxes on 6.5. He has been, as I said, probably the form player since we have changed that formation. Also Hurtado only going okay. We'll bring on Camillo for him and put Osvaldo out onto that left-hand side, because Camillo did play on that right-hand side during last season. Off the back of that, there is a highlight hero thrown to Stuttgart. Hopefully, we don't pay the price here for just being a bit wasteful in front of goal, and a good chance here for Becker from a tight angle, albeit that's a very good save from San Jose, and off the back of those substitutions going through. I thought that cut out the corner, but unfortunately, we're still going to see this one here for Stuttgart. They put that one into the mix, but thankfully San Jose does come out to claim that. It still feels like there's going to be a goal in this game, just not too sure who from. We're having a lot more shots, but unfortunately not too many on target. We are just playing a slightly lower tempo than we did with the Gegenpress style, which might help us. It has been of late, but at the moment Stuttgart with a bit of a late flurry in this game. Good shot there from Fagioli, but San Jose off the back of a fumble does recover to collect that one. Off the back of that, I think we're going to chuck a few more players up front here on some more attacking duties and just see if that will help us potentially grab a goal in these last 10 minutes. But so far it has been a quite even game, and Stuttgart late are starting to get on the front foot, albeit as I say that, they have a corner. San Jose again comes out to claim that one, probably so far being our best player in this game. Pumps it deep, unfortunately we can't get on the end of it. Now they try and do something down this near side. Mecha draws a man in there, a nice pass to Fagioli in a bit of space, tries to link up there with Fagia. We intercepted, and now a good chance for us on the counter-attack. Zoran has the ball, loose touch there. Thankfully, will recover, get that one back for us. Now, Baker in the midfield plays that one to his partner in Blomé over the top, and Tunde Musa slightly in behind, edge of the box, tries to square that one nicely. For Amadori, it takes a big deflection and goes over the crossbar again. He's actually had quite a few chances like that in today's game, mostly with his head, but unfortunately, that time a defender does get in the way inside the last 10 minutes, and still, somehow, no goals in this game. We're taking our time over this corner, looking for Osvaldo at the near post, but unfortunately, can't quite link up, and Stuttgart do somewhat deal with that danger. Blomé plays that one back to Osvaldo. Now Ryan's in a lot of space, but unfortunately that highlight does get cut out. We're making our way now towards the last 5 minutes of this game, and I think now it's time for us to just go with a slightly higher tempo, albeit we might tell our guys to not be so expressive. That's something else that we are doing, and also we'll just play slightly wider, of course, with Vertical Tiki Taka. That is quite a narrow formation. We've gone from quite a wide one now to a narrow one, so we'll see if just expanding that does help out. We're going to try and up the tempo, but unfortunately, nothing doing. And somehow in a game of many chances, that one's finished at 0-0. To be fair, a draw, probably a fair result, but it did feel like, especially around the first 70 or so minutes of that game, we were the team who were on the front foot. So not a bad result, but definitely a game it felt like we could have got a little bit more out of. I think we'll just tell the boys there with the sympathies. Might have been one of those days. Both teams got away with a couple there because Stuttgart had some big chances on the counter-attack as well. As I said, not a bad result, especially as that does get Stuttgart back into a European qualifying spot, but it does keep us smack bang mid-table in the Bundesliga and a little bit of a resurgence off the back of yesterday's episode. And hopefully this Vertical Tiki Taka will do the job in Europe. We'll come back shortly and get ready for a clash away at Montpellier. And we are back a couple of days off the back of that first game. In today's episode, it was a 0-0 draw, but it did feel like it was a very entertaining one. Hopefully, we'll get some goals in this one in the Europa League, where we do take on Montpellier. Of course, it's a bit of an interesting game for me, currently in charge of those guys in the Anzac Challenge over on Twitch, at least at the moment when I record this. Albeit looking at that team that they do have available to them, there's no players that I'm currently using in that Montpellier lineup, apart from Stelios Andreu. He's a player that we previously had at the club, even then though we've actually sold him by now, so it's a very different looking Montpellier team to the one that I am used to, but currently they are 7th in League, also doing a slightly better job than we are in the domestic league. They started off with a win over Lech Poznan, and also before then they played one more game, and that did end up in a draw against RZ, so that's actually not too bad form for us. Of course, we did beat RZ on our way to a win in the Conference League last season, so hopefully this is a game off the back of a slightly better spell of form that we can pick up. A winner, of course, yesterday we took on Nottingham Forest and blew a 2-1 lead at halftime. As it turns out, those guys actually doing a pretty decent job at the moment, on top off the back of a very impressive second up win, 9-2 over Leipzig. But going into this game yet again, we've got a couple of players who are on a heavy workload, so we're going to give them a rest in the Europa League, albeit a win here would be quite good. It might revive our chances of getting a top 8 finish, but if we do lose, we should still be good enough to make our way into the knockouts for a top 24 spot, and then hopefully can start to progress through those knockout rounds. In terms of our team going into this game, same as it was for the first one today, but Escobar does come back in for Baker, so it does mean that still Zolan is on a heavy workload. That's a bit frustrating. As I said, he's actually been one of our better players so far in this Vertical Tiki Taka, so hopefully he does get over that soon and can be available a little bit more. We could play him if we really wanted to, but of course with us having not got off to the best start in the Bundesliga, probably a good idea to just save him up for that competition and wait until he does get nice and fit. There you saw before Montpellier, there we are, there's that lineup, and also being a European game, we do have an extended bench. We'll get stuck in to the action as the Europa League music does continue to play, even though we have kicked off, just waiting here for it to finish. But so far, about 10 minutes into this one, and nothing has happened so far. Maybe just waiting for the music to finish on the speakers. It eventually does, and still no highlights coming up to the 20-minute mark, albeit stats-wise, we are looking like we are slightly more on the front foot, but so far both teams with only one shot on target. We're getting a couple more off, and because of that, do have a slightly higher XG, albeit now I say that Montpellier start to get on the front foot a little bit more, but so far this game, up to very little as we get closer to half time. Pretty even stats wise now. We'll just demand more from the boys and see if that changes anything before half time. But it looks like this one, we're going to get things into the sheds still locked up at 0. Also, unfortunately, not much doing so far in terms of goal scoring in today's episode. And because of that, what we might do here is switch our player roles to what they were under the gegenpress and just see if that does mean we do play a bit better. I've been thinking about that anyway, of course, because we did sign these players in the transfer window under the assumption that we would keep using the gegenpress, so it's probably a good idea to play them in those roles that we did sign them for, because of course they're probably their best roles and definitely will be the best players at the club in those positions if we do change that. So it does mean both inside forwards now up front. Also, we're going to chuck Xerxes as a cam on attack, and also Blomé goes back to a balling midfielder. And apart from that, it does mean now that Sika is on attack at right back. And of course, we do have now Leroy Sané on support as well. So it's a little bit of a change there going back in terms of roles to what we were using.
Yeah.
But just as that happens, Leroy Sané does pick up an injury. Hopefully it's not too serious. Mikel Mastis can come on for him with around about a half hour left. But so far, this game not up to a lot, albeit we are still on the front foot. In fact, shortly off the back of that, I have just noticed a few other players were down to red hearts. We'll bring on Vochin for Sika, and also Manuel can come on for Justin Blomé. Also Xerxes only going fairly, so we'll give Zoran a half hour in this game, and hopefully he can find us some form in the later stages of this game. And eventually there is a highlight. It's taken an hour, but something is finally happening here. Yet again, we are in the yellow Montpellier in their traditional dark blue home uniform. Now Escobar, nice ball over the top there. Amadori does get on the end of that one. Now some good short passing around the edge of the box. We find Zoran, who tucks that one away. As I said, he's been probably our best player so far since we have been playing with a vertical tiki taka. And thankfully, it's taken until the hour mark with the first highlight of the game. We do score off the back of Amadori winning that header. Some good short passing on the edge of the box, and Matthias Tal does set up Zoran. He picks up a goal, and eventually we score a goal today and do go 1-0 up with around about 20 minutes left. And hopefully now we can hang on and pick up 3 pretty big points here in the Europa League off the back of that loss at home in yesterday's episode against Nottingham Forest. Now just checking here on some player fitness, a couple of players down to red hearts, only one sub left. I think we'll take off the defender in Andrew Pittman, playing well, but Ryan should be able to do a decent job out there for these last 10 or so minutes. Now Manuel, as traditionally is the case, our balling midfielder, does pick up a yellow card, but hopefully a chance for us here to grab a cushion goal with 10 minutes left. We keep the ball from this far. Now Osvaldo plays that one out to Ryan, plays it back to our big, tall, young Brazilian wonder kid, Hurtado, out to Vochin. Now Manuel up to Mastis. We're holding the ball nicely here at the moment with this quick short passing of the vertical tiki taka. Now Vochin just takes his time, plays that back to Manuel Mastis, back to Escobar, just waiting here for some gaps to appear. Vochin might float this one into the mixer. In fact, plays it back to Escobar. Matthias Tal with a good chance running backwards with his head, but unfortunately that one does come off the post. So unfortunately a chance there for us to make it 2-0. Can't quite do it. Off the back of that, we'll just tell our guys to not be so expressive. So hopefully that might help us keep the ball a little bit better and hold on to this 1-0 lead. Now good work there from Mastis to pick up on that loose touch from Montpellier, but unfortunately Amadori continues his goal scoring troubles, and it is still 1-0 in our favour. Now down the other end, and Montpellier for the first time might be on the front foot. Saint Maximin with a free kick. It's flicked on by Cutterbeck, and Markel is there to boot that one home. Their first real chance of the game, and unfortunately they grab an equaliser off the back of that. We'll tell our guys to be more expressive yet again, and also we'll chuck Mastis on attack to hopefully grab a late goal and get back in front, because it does feel at the moment like this result would be just a little bit harsh. It's a bit of an unfortunate goal to concede to. Unfortunately, no one marking Markel there at that far post. Also gets a lot of help from the underside of the crossbar, and off the back of that, from the restart, there is another highlight. So hopefully a chance for us here to take the lead yet again off the back of a couple of slight technical adjustments. Interesting to see there too that Hoffenheim are defeating Nottingham Forest, but we are on the attack here. Vochin starts to make his way forward, goes to far post for Matthias Tal, gets his head on the end of that one, but unfortunately that one comes off the post, and it is still 1-1, albeit lots of action it feels like coming late in this game off the back of a very quiet first hour. Now Mastis makes his way down that right-hand side. Of course, these days, he is on attack. Votchin plays that one back to Manuel on a yellow card. Rockets that one through the hands of Semper, and thankfully, we were not locked up for too long in this game. We grab our lead back and make it 2-1 with 5 minutes left off the back of that. Yet again, we're going to tell our guys to be less expressive and actually this time be more disciplined. Also time waste just a little bit and chuck a few more players on support and defensive duties, in particular both our midfielders on defend, and hopefully we can hold on and pick up 3 points here, which would almost make up for that loss to Nottingham Forest in yesterday's episode. But great first time strike there from Manuel. Sampa does get on the end of it but can't quite keep it out. Off the back of the Montpellier net, we are back in front by 2-1, and based on stats, double the amount of shots. That does feel like a more fair result. Now a free kick here in our favour, but unfortunately Matthias Tell puts a bit too much on that one. Good slide tackle there from, I think that was Manuel on that yellow card. He's having a big impact in the later stages of this game, and hopefully we can hold on to the ball here and make sure we pick up 3 points. And nice ball there from Zoran. I fought for Tell, but unfortunately can't quite get on the end of that one, and now Montpellier might get a chance to pinch a draw from this game. They hold the ball down that left-hand side. Now Dams plays that one through. Good 1-2, and Dams does get in behind, and Christoph Dams with a dagger blow, albeit still 6 minutes of injury time in this game, but certainly this game's kicked to life off the back of those role changes that we did make at half-time. But now it's time for us to go back to our usual roles yet again. Maybe should have just left them that way off the back of scoring that second goal as well as that first one. We'll tell the guys to be more expressive as well, and we might also, just debating actually, we'll keep it to a slightly higher tempo just because don't want to lose one more game in the Europa League. But unfortunately, having taken the lead twice in this game in the last half hour, it is now 2-2. Good 1-2 here on that far side between Dams, and I think that was Lambresi. He puts that one away into that bottom right corner. 2 6 minutes though of added time. We'll see if anything does happen in the later stages of this game. We'll tell the guys to fire up, and we'll also go attacking for the last couple of seconds. But unfortunately, it's another draw in today's episode. That game a lot quieter than the first one, at least for the first hour, but then it kicked into life in that second half off the back of changing those player roles to what they were when we were playing the Gegenpress. Maybe that's something that we should persist with for the next couple of games that we do play before we come back at the start of next week. But unfortunately, our winning run has just finished a little bit off the back of those games that we have played since yesterday's episode, but not bad results against some teams a lot better than the ones that we did beat in that most recent patch. We pick up draws first up against Stuttgart and then 2-2 against Montpellier, albeit we were in front twice in that game. And back in the inbox off the back of that second game of today's episode, Montpellier do hold out for a draw. They grab it late. As I said, that game did really kick into life late off the back of those changes that we did make to the player roles at halftime. So I think we'll try that over the course of the games that I do play over the weekend, and we'll see if that is still what we are going with when we come back come the start of next week. Also, Leroy Sané did pick up an injury in that game, and unfortunately it is a rather big run, broken ribs, so he will be out for 2 months. We'll send him to a specialist. To be fair, right wing is the area we are deepest in our Europa League squad, with Danny Hermel being registered, being homegrown club. So I suppose in a weird way, that's probably the one position we don't mind getting an injury in, but still, that does mean now that Mikel Mastis will be starting most of our upcoming games, and also Danny Hermel might get a bit more game time than we were anticipating. But it does mean in the Europa League we're a little bit behind where we would ideally be, only 4 points from our first 3 games, albeit we are still in a knockout qualifying spot. Also, Nottingham Forest dropped down heavily off the back of getting thumped by Hoffenheim. That's an interesting result, with Hoffenheim being a fellow German team. So far, Roma actually on top of the Europa League. Of course, that's a team who were in the Conference League last season, so there's actually some signs we might be good enough to challenge for this, but need to pick up our form to what it was last season, not like it was come the start of this one. Hopefully, we eventually get our act into gear with this vertical tiki taka. Otherwise, find a different tactical style and start to string some results together. But certainly, some encouraging signs off the back of yesterday's episode and in today's one, even though we only picked up 2 draws. But that will do it for today. Unfortunately, a goalless draw in that first game, albeit, as I said, quite an entertaining one off the back of that. Another draw in the Europa League. A late goal denies us against Montpellier. If you enjoyed today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and have been enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. We'll come back at the start of next week. Now, it was probably going to be dependent on that result from that Europa League game, what game we come back for either side of the derby against RB Leipzig come the start of next week. But with clue for Firth being from the two Bundesliga, in our situation in the Europa League, I think that Lons game's our last tough one, potentially, of the league phase. Off the back of that, we should start to pick up the points a lot more regularly. So we'll come back for RB Leipzig first up at the start of next week. Those guys currently are on top of the Bundesliga table, certainly bounce back. Of course, they are down in the Conference League. That might be helping them out a little bit domestically. We'll play our first derby of the season, and off the back of that, hopefully this time beat a French team in the Europa League in the form of Lons. But until that, at the start of next week, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.
Thought I could do this, life through the sadness. Don't know how I ended up so low.